Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman, um, Black Panther, amongst all the other things. It was a sad week for that, man. Come on.
Yeah, that was unexpected.
That was unexpected. It it's terrible because you're like, I feel for this guy, but then at the same time, you're like, what's gonna happen to the Black Panther franchise?
I mean, who do you think it should go to?
The dude who plays
I saw you put that old boy that plays
what's his name? Something Idris.
Yeah.
Idris. So if you're thinking Idris Elba, he's already played like 3 roles in the MCU.
No, not Idris Elba. But you talking about old boy from Snowfall?
I'm talking about old boy from Snowfall.
Okay. What do you think about Denzel's son picking that role up?
I thought him initially.
He said that earlier.
Yeah.
I think Denzel's son. I think he would be a good one.
Also, shout out Damon Idris or Denzel's son. Between them two, they could take up the mantle. They're talking about making who is it, Shuri Black Panther, and I'm like, I know, no.
She's in the comic books, but you know,
I understand, but not right now. Nope.
Or they could bring back Michael B. Jordan. They can figure out a way to do it.
They could
be upset. I wouldn't be upset if they just did a left turn and made him T'Challa.
Yeah.
I understand.
You know,
I wouldn't be upset. At that one.
You know,
I wouldn't be mad at it, but you know, I feel like I don't know. As a person,
he played Killmonger so well. Listen, man, I can get into this. I can get into some nerd talk.
I mean, like, I like him as Killmonger. I just don't want to change it too much. It's kind of like, all right, well, you did, you know, Heath Ledger, you did good as the Joker. Now be Batman. It's like, no.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, that's
true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unless they played it as a redemption arc. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he was bad and then he went to good, you know? Maybe.
They could do that, but then you lose out on all the Killmonger stuff that I know you lose out on a lot of Killmonger stuff. I'm not willing to lose out on that.
Well, like we're losing out on Killmonger stuff now in the comic world because in the movie world.
He's dead. He's dead.
He comes back like 4 times.
I mean,
touche. Okay. I'll give you that one. But that's the comic books. That's the comic books, though.
That's true.
Like, who else other than Captain America, who really wasn't killed? Who else did they bring back, the movie wise?
Well, I mean, it just hasn't happened. Well,
it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet, so we don't know.
Exactly.
Like, officially, we know, okay, Tony Stark died. We know that because Marvel's like, hey, Robert,
did he?
We love you, but
did he?
We're not
did he?
I mean, the other thing, too, is with the way TV and movies are today, it's so versed in flashbacks that it's kind of like, what's that show? This Is Us, where people die, but it's like, yeah, but they're going to be here every season showing you random stuff anyway. So I feel like Robert Downey Jr. is just, I mean, I think they said in this contract he's coming back as holograms multiple times anyway. So, you know.
We just ain't got to pay him for a full movie. They found a way around it.
Disney was like, look, man, you have made a lot of money. I think what's wild is, like, people talk about a rebrand. Robert Downey Jr. had a rebrand. Like,
the ultimate.
People don't even remember what Robert Downey Jr. was like. Like, like while we talking to kids, they're like, oh, like Captain. I was like, yo, Robert Downey Jr. was wild. They was like, what? Robert? I was like, it's hard to even Wikipedia his stuff now. Like, he's clean. Disney scrubbed him clean.
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. was Charlie Sheen before Charlie Sheen. Well, Robert Downey Jr. and Charlie Sheen were doing the same thing at the same time with each other. And then
yikes. Pause.
Oh man, I was waiting for somebody. And then you know, Robert cleaned up his act.
He did.
Yeah. The other one, not so much. But I mean, it's not like he switched it up. But I guess Charlie Sheen future was kind of bleak, kind of black and ugly as ever. However, I stay Houston down to my socks. It's one of the hosts of In My Humble Opinion podcast. I'm Avery, like a very nice guy, also known as Avery Zadius. Zadius, what's that? Well, Zadius, you can call me Zaddy for short. Haha, it's corny. It's just a joke set up. Also, we have the co-host with me, one of the best writers I've ever met, the baldest guy I know. I've known him for my entire life. My actual blood brother, Just Devon.
All right.
Boom, Just Devon. And you've heard us nerd out with one of our guests today. You don't know who he is yet because we haven't revealed him, because he's a Houston native, a TSU grad, a grinder, because who else is going to do it for you? The owner and operator of Houston Trend Magazine. He's been everywhere, from Core 94 to KFP to KPFT, KTSU.
KTSU.
Yes, KTSU. Also, what is it? From various podcasts.
KPFT. Also did 90.1. Oh man, now you're making me really dig into my resume. KTSU. I was at 93.7 for a minute. Then with Houston Trend, I've even had my own podcast, from the Loso Show to be told yep. With Corey Terry.
Our boy.
And now I'm doing Trend Talk with my girl Jay Renee. So yeah, man, now that you made me think about it, I've been doing radio broadcasting for a minute.
Yeah, ever since TSU.
Well, before TSU, really. Because I say before TSU, but you're gonna laugh at this one. Me and my cousin, during our summers, would go into this room that we had at the apartments that we were staying in, and we would record ourselves as if we were making our own radio show, and we called it 93.7 The Flav.
Why the Flav?
Flav. The Flav is all in your ear hole. This was our tagline.
Here comes a brand new flavor in your ear. Look at
wow.
That's where that came from. So thank you, Craig Mack.
Wow. Now wait. Now how?
We never got to say who you are. Elliot.
Oh well.
Elliot Guidry.
I am the. Yeah. Indeed. I was gonna have my own introduction, but you cut it short. I am the illustrious, robust, the light-skinned featherweight, the one that your baby daddy loves to hate because I am all inside your crate. I am the one and only Elliot Guidry.
Yes, Elliot Guidry.
You had such a grandeur intro for yourself. I had to do something.
Your people got to be from Louisiana with that last name.
Indeed. We all through Lake Charles, Opelousas, Church Point, as far as Baton Rouge, down into the depths of New Orleans. We are all through Louisiana.
Gotta be. You a light-skinned
Oh, yeah. What? Yeah, I have a coworker at my job that loves to call me Ginger. So, yeah.
Light-skinned Ginger like Malcolm X. But
so all I got to say is, como se va, shit? And she's just like, dude.
So, Elliot.
Oh, snap. Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming on In My Humble Opinion podcast. We really appreciate you. We really appreciate what you're doing for the city. We already talked about, you said you started
Appreciate you gentlemen reaching out.
I appreciate
I do have to make one correction. I did not graduate from TSU yet. Okay. So I don't want to run around as if I am alumni, because that is a prestigious title to have. And especially going to TSU, a historically black college. If you did indeed graduate, you are deserving of that alumni title. I have not earned that right yet. So.
Okay.
You're a real one.
Now, what,
just to clarify, either. Same thing he said, just playing PV in there. But yeah, it's a real one.
I am an attendee of TSU. I have attended, but I have not fully crossed the stage yet.
You will.
So. Hey man, if it's in the scriptures, it'll be there.
You will, man. If you believe, you will achieve.
Indeed.
Now, you were talking earlier. You said that was you and your cousin that had the radio station, or the
my cousin Jermaine Austin. He would so each day after school we were going to Turner Elementary over here in Third Ward, and each day after school, you know, it was either PlayStation or we were creating our own radio station. That was just purely off the influence of listening to 97.9 The Box at the time, because that was really our only hip-hop station out here. So, you know, that was we would just go in the back room and make dub tapes and record ourselves. Now, ask me today where those tapes are, I couldn't tell you, but that's really how the dream started.
Okay. Now,
that's funny. Me and Devon did the same thing.
Yeah.
Podcasting before podcasting was ever a thing.
I don't know where those tapes are though. They were definitely tapes. That's what I remember. Like, they were tapes.
Yeah.
And I don't know where those are. They in a box somewhere in my mom's house.
Yeah.
Now, were you always interested in radio or some form of podcasting? I mean, this is what podcasting is, radio, but you know, just being on the air like that.
Absolutely. I mean, my biggest influences, like I said at the time, was the guys on 97.9, Robert Scorpio, Jimbo. What was the young lady at the time? Shelly Wade. It wasn't on the tape yet. Yeah, no. I showed my age with Shelly Wade.
Shelly Wade in the box.
Yes. This is when Carmen was on the radio. This is when J Mac and Matt Hatter had the afternoon spot. They were the young guys on the radio show. You know, but hearing them inspired me to want to do that. That was, I mean, all those guys. Yeah, like Rob Bass, the bass man, was, you know.
Right. I forgot about
you
Rob
know,
Bass.
Yeah. Rest in peace to the legend Rob Bass when he passed. That hurt because it felt like a real legend to me in my eyes. That was a part of my childhood passed away when he passed. Because I mean, like when he would bring you those late night mixes, you know, that was the point in time when we were recording, because Screw was also big at the time. So we would take those late night mixes and we would slow down that part of the tape, and that's how we made our Screw tapes.
Yeah. So has it also always been a focus on Houston as well? Like, if you're like, I want to be on radio, has it always also been Houston? I want to focus on Houston radio too.
It was, well, subconsciously, it was always Houston. Because I'm from here, I know here. If you're going to do something, do what you love, and I love my city. I love where I'm from. I love the fact that it's starting to make 288 look a hell of a lot better as I'm riding on it.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was just always an appreciation. The place I was leaving from was over at the Screw Shop, which was a moment for me because my cousin, another one of my cousins, David Anderson, would come in the city from San Antonio to stay with us. But every time he was staying with us, he would go visit the Screw Shop. And then this is how I'm now introduced to the illustrious music that we had out here that was outside of the radio. So once the songs that I was listening to from the tapes he was playing started making it on the radio, that's when I guess when it started to come together for me. It was like, oh, wait, no, you can really do something with this and help people out. You know, it was, I want to be able to do that for artists as well. I want to be able to take a record that I believe in, that they're putting out, and help it grow through a media platform. And that's really how the idea and the love for media broadcasting spawned. Just through those summers with my cousin going to the Screw Shop.
Yeah, and I was gonna say because I don't want to limit you just to radio. I mean, you focus like I like that you bring up media. You focus on writing, photography, video production. I see you doing stuff with the media block. You of course there's Houston Trend. Let's and that's one of the notable things that I mean Houston Trend where this idea to start this magazine based solely in Houston, where does this come from?
Oh man, that's the story. So the same cousin I was telling you about, my cousin David Anderson, that used to come in from San Antonio and would buy these screw tapes. He's also a well-known promoter, or was at the time. He had these nights called Trend Fridays. And so I'm going to tell you how that plays into Houston Trend. It was one day I was really getting frustrated with not getting a job in radio. I applied over at 97.9. I applied at 104.1, and nothing was really coming back. You know, it was just like I always felt like if I could get on one of those shows, I mean, not on one of those shows, but one of those stations, I'm made. You know, but none of those doors would immediately open up. So at the point in time when I had gotten really, really frustrated, so during the time when Trade the Truth was kind of going against 90.
Okay, so back up a little bit because you were saying it just skipped for a second. So at the point in time where you got really frustrated, and then go ahead and continue.
So I had gotten really frustrated because I was applying to these radio stations here in the city and wasn't being looked at. And that's how I learned you got to be from outside the city to get on some of these stations. But different story, different topic, different day. At the same time, Trade the Truth was going against 97.9. And at the time, I was really confused because it's like, how can a guy from Houston that even back then was doing, this was around, what, 2008, 2009?
Yeah.
When they banned him from the radio station. I even think they banned him from TSU, to be honest. But
yeah.
Nonetheless, at the same time, 97.9 The Box was transitioning from urban radio to Radio 1 because they were being bought by Radio 1. And they were going from a local station to a top 40. Now, that was unknown to me at the time. So, you know, as a young, bright-eyed kid wanting to get into radio and you're being told no, you're looking at the immediate reason as to why you're being told no. It's like, you guys aren't taking anything local. You guys are shutting down things local. So you know what? I'm going to kind of create an avenue where that space that you guys are turning your back on gives that spotlight again. So out of frustration was birthed Houston Trend. And I don't want to put it like in a negative tone because it was also a brainchild because at the end of the day, all I wanted to do was help put on music and artists that I appreciated or that would make music out here and wanted to give them an avenue to gain a spotlight if I could. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So the day I came up with the idea, I called my cousin David, who is a great person to bounce ideas off of. And I told him, like, look, man, I applied to some of these radio stations. None of them are, like, really trying to hire me. I had gotten a letter from 97.9 saying that I was banned because I was supporting Trade the Truth. So it was just a lot of stuff. So I asked him, I said, man, if you were to have something that would give these guys a spotlight, what do you think it would be? He said, I would do a magazine. I said, okay, what would you call it? He said, Trend Magazine. Now, I'm going to always draw back to my cousin David because I pull a lot of inspiration and ideas from him. So when he told me Trend Magazine, the first thing I did was when I got off the phone with him, I Google searched Trend Magazine to see if the name was available immediately. And it was a magazine owned by Penn State that their students were doing. So thus, came the name Houston Trend. I slapped Houston in front of it. Later that week, got my paperwork, my DBA, my licensing, and all that. The following week, I went and registered my domain, and then I started talking about Houston Trend that following week. Because after I had everything, I wanted to make sure I owned the name.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want anybody else to run with it, because I just knew that there was something gold in there. And anybody that, if you have an idea, go through those processes. Go through that process before you start, talking about it or, putting it out there in the world verbally before you have your paperwork. Get your paperwork done first, man.
Absolutely. Well, let's back up real quick, too. You got a letter from 97.9?
Listen, I wish I still had it. But I got it, and my young rebellious behind who probably treated it like it was a ticket, I tore it up and threw it away. I'm upset because I should have framed it. I should have framed that letter from them.
Absolutely.
And that was because at the time I was really backing Trey the Truth. Like it was like I didn't understand how a man who was trying to legitimately do something good for the city be blamed for somebody else's actions. I didn't understand it. And the fact that he was just taking it showed me what kind of a man he was. It's like, okay, you know what? Y'all are making me the martyr of this. You know what? Screw it. We'll keep it going. And then, he had that 10-year long lawsuit with the box, which I think still might be going in some shape, form, or fashion. But he's so far removed from the situation. Obviously, the man's out in Louisville, Kentucky, fighting for justice for Breonna Taylor. So, it's just there's different kind of people in the world.
And at this point too, just talking about Trey, it's to the point where Trey and Relief Gang are pretty much anywhere in the United States where they're needed. Like, if there's a natural disaster that hits your area, what they
are legitimately the Avengers. They are the Avengers.
Yeah.
You can't tell me anything bad about Rogers or Trey.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
So
that is our Captain America. That is our Iron Man.
Yeah.
Now, getting Houston Trend. You're starting Houston Trend. What was people's response to you starting a magazine here in Houston?
Immediately, man, still even to this day, I feel like I'm still working on introducing it to people. Because I had worked I'd done a lot of club photography, so I knew some of the key people to tell that this is what I was doing on my own. Guys like MC Kane, guys like Trey the Truth, who gave me my first big interview, would help me spread the word about it. And the website being around, and at the time, Twitter was really a thing. So the word trend would be was an easily searchable word. You know what I mean? So when you were searching Houston Trend would pop up. So, it wasn't like you were looking for Houston Trend magazine on purpose. You could just be looking for what are the things going on in Houston, randomly, like, okay, what places to go? What are things to do? What restaurants? And those would be the stuff that I would, on purpose, put on the website. So you can go to it at that time and figure out, like, okay, cool, Kitchen 713 is a thing. Bet, Propane has an album coming out. D-Lo has an album coming out. At the time, what clubs were popping around that time? The Drake, or the Gatsby, whichever part of that era you were from. That was, but I mean, it was always about a young professional from our culture that wanted to know what was going on in Houston. So if you came from outside the city, you would be able to go on HoustonTrendMag.com, know what clubs are popping, know where to go eat. And if you weren't into the clubs, or you would be, at least you would try to find somewhere to eat. But you would also know about the music that we're doing. So I wanted to be able to introduce an audience to a different array of things from Houston. So when you would see me at the clubs and I'm taking your photo, you would come to Houston Trend, and then you would see the different stuff that we had on the website. And that was my whole marketing scheme behind it in the beginning stages. So at the time, because my nose was always to the ground and my boots was on it, I didn't really get the immediate response until after I went print. And a guy pulled up on me at LA's Memorial. The guy that helped started Warehouse Live.
Yeah.
He pulled up on me with every magazine that I had released at that point and said, "Man, the stuff that you are doing for Houston, I appreciate." And I'm light skinned, so I started to cry. I'm at a memoriam for the homie, you know what I'm saying? So I'm already halfway emotional. Yeah. And the fact that he pulled up on me and showed me that he paid for these magazines. I would always check and see, where the purchases are coming from. But to be pulled up on with the magazines in somebody's hand, that did it for me,
Elliot,
so shout out to him.
Elliot,
yes, sir.
Don't cry.
No, man. No, we good. We good.
Oh, you gotta, because I'm like,
we got a Houston Trend right here.
Doe Beasy one. Yeah.
Doe Beasy right here. This is Devon's magazine. I can't take credit for this. This is my brother's magazine. Yeah.
My man.
Yeah.
Hey, brother. Yeah. That's real. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, don't cry yet.
Oh, brother.
Don't cry.
See, well, and on the Zoom right now, like, for whatever reason, I'm just looking at me. I'm not seeing you guys for whatever reason.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, you'll be able to see it when the video play.
We know you driving.
So it's good because I won't be able to cry until then.
So initially, you weren't even in print.
No, it was always on. It started online. Back in 2009, I taught myself how to make my own website. Built the website and started putting the content on there. And then because the idea was to always have a magazine, each month I would feature somebody on the front page of the website as if there was a magazine cover. And that goes into manifesting things from an idea into physical. I always wanted to print. So, because I aspired to be like Elliot Wilson, even before Elliot Wilson was Elliot Wilson. Wow. He was just known as YN.
Yeah.
Through his signature. Yeah. So I would read his editorials, and then I would specifically read the articles he wrote, because the way he would capture the culture, even then, was very unique, because he painted a picture for you as you were reading the magazine or the article at the time. When 2 Chainz had just came out, the article he did on 2 Chainz, it literally, like, you felt like you was on the bus with 2 Chainz coming from a concert, the way Elliot described it. And not only did this guy have my name, but he captivated me in a way that I wanted to put on guys. Like, if I talked about you, I wanted the reader to feel exactly what I was feeling.
Yeah.
During that. And Elliot, that's
Elliot definitely has an incredible pen, and people forget. It's like, I remember going to the editorial like that. He was one of the first writers where I was like, oh, I really just want to see what you're particularly writing about. There were a lot that I liked, but I just remember consistently going to the editorial page every month. It was like the first thing I would read, just to see what he was talking about. And
Yep.
I mean, sometimes it was just, I mean, a lot of times it was trash talking, but when you really got into it, it's like he's a very descriptive writer. Like
Very.
really descriptive.
And even down to this day, how the details and the moves that he's making and how he's being represented, like you can tell his hands are all over that. So Elliot Wilson is by far one of my biggest inspirations. Funny story, when he came down to Houston, I had to meet him. You know what I mean? Yeah. My cousin David, there's another. He's gonna always pop up somewhere in this conversation. He was working with Debbie Dev at the time, and Debbie was working closely with Elliot. So during that first hall weekend, they had Elliot down here in the city. I went to go meet him, and before I even got to introduce myself, he was like, "Oh shit, it's Elliot Guidry." And I shit you not, I literally went like 3 shades lighter because my soul jumped out of my body and I turned into the fanboy that I was. The moment he said, "Oh shit, it's Elliot Guidry, my guy." And the shit took me aback because I wasn't ready for that. I was ready to introduce myself as, "Hey, Mr. Elliot Wilson, my name is Elliot Guidry." He was like, "No, man, I know you. I like the work you're doing." I was, you could have taken me home that day and placed me on the couch, and I was done.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, you know, that was my Elliot Wilson experience. So every now and then he'll find a way to shout me out, which is fucking amazing. I'm sorry to curse, but you know, it was I can't even explain the gratitude I have for that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, I mean, for you doing this as you've been doing and developing out Houston Trend, you've been documenting this a really important time, I think, in Houston hip hop, where you can watch the progression of what you're doing and you can watch that progression follow right along with the city's progression. So how has it been over these few years, just starting out with Trend and then expanding into podcasting and other things, as we're getting more, I wouldn't say we're getting everything the city should be getting, but as eyeballs are coming to the city and it's increasing, how has that been for you?
Man, it's so here's something very interesting with the city. I mean, and just in general, the city, we have these highs, we have these lows. And it's been the same way with the company Houston Trend. We'll have these highs, we'll have these lows. If there's not too much going on with us musically, and you can tell with me, if you've been following Houston Trend, you can tell when we're like rapid fire with stuff and when we're kind of slow.
Yeah.
When we're slow in those moments, it's either like in the middle of like no sports are going on, nobody's putting out any music. I've talked about this club so many times already, I can't talk about it no more. You know what I mean? And at the same time, it's only because unknowns to me, there was a whole different other wave of underground Houston artists that was stirring up right under my nose that I had no idea about until I started tapping in with a younger audience. So, I mean, just like that, there's different stages of evolution that Houston, the city, has had, and of course, Houston Trend has had. I mean, we're, like you said, I couldn't have put it any better myself. We are growing as the culture of Houston is growing. So that's you know, we've had our highs, we've had our lows. Right now, you know, as fun as the print version of the magazine is, and as much as I will still do them, and they will only be on special occasions, I'm going to start. We're starting going to more of a digital platform. Whereas whether not just through our social media, but like how you would see interviews on YouTube or things like that. And thank God for DJ Shantae and my experience with 93.7. That gave me the introduction on how I think some of these interviews should be going. With just as far as the creative content part of it. Excuse me. So that's where we're going to be going from this point forward. Is when we do a feature, we're doing the feature on the artists and everything going on around them. So we're capturing all of that video content as a part of it.
And that's great, especially the work that you've been doing with Shantae and 93.7 looks incredible. I like the for lack of a better, it's a hot 97 feel that's being applied to Houston, where we don't oftentimes get the hot 97 feel. I would even
right, and the thing was okay, cool. You can go out to NY. You can go get on the Breakfast Club. You can go get on Hot 97. But when you come to Houston, where are you going? Yeah. I wanted Shantae's show to be that spot that you had to come to. So I wanted it to look like it. I wanted that feel. I wanted everything that they were doing. I wanted that done here. So it wasn't even a question on whether or not you were going to come to Houston, you were going to come see Shantae. Still, even to this day, I want you to go see Shantae. So we're working on something. Hopefully we can have started before the end of the year, if not at the top of the year. But that's the idea. I want folks to be able to recognize where you're supposed to come if you're coming from outside the city.
Now, you were saying, as the magazine was, you said earlier when you were talking about the magazine, you started discovering an underground that was right under your nose. And I tell people a lot, like, it's like, I know even when people are very, because I was too, even when people are very respectful and like praising of Houston hip hop, I was like, yo, there's so much that you don't even know that is going on right now. Who were some of the artists that were right under your nose and just kind of surprised you?
So artists that was under my nose that I started paying attention, that I was just, so my writer, Kevin, he was working with this group, Laced Up. So those guys, Oblivious Jones was another one. Buddy Rowe was another one. Bloodbath, OMB Bloodbath is another one. Jesus Christ, there's so many. I can't. So I'm still learning all of them. You know what I mean? Trilly Polk, who I got onto later, and was like, "Oh my God, Houston has this."
Man,
listen,
talking about Trilly Polk. Trilly Polk is making top 40 radio hits right now.
Listen. I don't like to throw this word around lightly. But I will only use it with Trilly Polk and the kind of music that he's making. The man is a god in golden shoes when it comes to his music. I can't even underestimate or cut him short on the kind of music that he's making, because brother is going to go far. And it's not just the music, it's how he introduces himself through the music and in person. You're going to leave an experience with him feeling a little bit more uplifted, feeling a little bit more passionate. That's Trilly Polk in a nutshell. Is uplifting and passionate. I can go on and on. Like, there's so many new guys that's out here that's super dope. It's Houston is an amazing city, brother.
And
full of talent.
Houston and that's the other thing. Houston just has so much talent. It's like every time you turn around, it's like oh, there's a new person, and they're not new. They got a catalog, and then you go back and it's like you've been putting out music. I talk about all the time. The first time I heard Big Fats, and
That's another one.
Yeah,
I met Big Fats in South by Southwest, and that could have been 2015. He had just performed at one of the spots out there, and my cousin Jermaine, who I was doing 93.7 the Flav with, or 97.3 the Flav, he was like, "Man, you got to get on Big Fats," and I'm like, "Okay, bet." When we saw him perform, and he had a vibe. He was cool. He wasn't any slouch with his bars. But to see the man that Big Fats, like after just really paying attention to who he is, and what he represents, that's a whole nother part of what draws me as a fan to somebody, is the whole thing. You know what I mean? How Fats represents himself. That's beyond what the music will ever do. If you ever get a chance to talk to him, you will feel a new uplifting about your own spirit.
Yeah, Fats, some of the people you've named have been on the show. Fats, Oblivious, these are people that we are big fans of. Where I was just like,
Absolutely.
I can't believe
it's impossible not to be.
Yeah, I was like, I can't believe that. It got to a point where we were just only listening to Houston music.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I was like, look.
So when people ask me, man, have you heard that new Wayne? No, I haven't. I've heard that new D-Lo.
Yeah.
I don't heard that Fifth Ward JP though, but fair enough.
You know what I'm saying? Heck, even with what Sauce Walker got and all the artists that he's putting on, that's got to be commended. You know what I mean? Even though we may look at Sauce Walker as a wild man, he is doing some big things as far as putting people on.
Because he's another one. You said what now?
His music is good as well.
Oh, his music is good. He's also another one where I feel like the personality, people are paying so much attention to that they're not paying attention to a lot of the business moves that he's making. And he's doing a lot. Like I said, he's doing a lot that I feel like is going... he's already successful, but I feel like he's going to reap a lot more success in the future, because he's laying down the groundwork for a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. If record labels had a place on the stock market, I would be buying all kind of TSF stock.
Oh yeah.
Because they're going to be going for a long time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when you look at now moving into, like, what are the goals that you now have for Houston Trend? Like, what do you want to turn it into?
Well, now like I mentioned, what we're about to start doing is I want to start opening up the realm in video content. Whether like I experimented with visual content when I was doing trend news, just kind of doing that for a little bit, and that was just an experiment. Like, okay, I want to see if this can gain some traction, and it gained a little bit. It did what I needed it to do, but it also taught me how long I would have to take to be able to dedicate that kind of time to putting those kind of pieces together. So more visual content, more interviews, not necessarily podcast style, but and not even like I don't want the Vlad style look, but it's going to be something unique in its own, in that same kind of context. I want to start opening up to more visual content for people, because I feel like that's what brings in a younger demographic. And if you can key in on certain words during the interview, then those that do like to read, then they'll have their articles that we will still do. But those who are utilizing the mess out of these phones, I want to be able to give them something that's going to be useful for them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Now, the other thing too is, as things are changing, what are you saying as you've been looking this whole time? What are some of the biggest changes that you think have happened on the Houston music scene?
Oh snap!
Some of the biggest changes that's happened with Houston music. Oh man, I don't want to necessarily say like the pull away from the original screw sound, but just creating it's their folks are creating their own lane with music now. It's not necessarily just about being, man, I done came down, da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? We're having more substance, complexity. We're having different styles. Just in music alone. You listen to somebody like D-Lo, you listen to somebody like, heck, even up to Kurt Cobain. Styles are vastly different, you know what I mean? From the content, the context, delivery, the cadence, all of that.
Yeah.
But that's still from Houston. I don't need to listen to any music outside of Houston because I can get everything from Houston. If I want to listen to R&B, we got Jack Freeman, we got Leland, we got who else?
Lenora.
Jesus Christ, there's so many. If I want rap, I got rap. If I want there's even rock artists out here. It's so much. You know what I mean? It's so much out here that I don't even have to go outside of the 610 loop for music. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's true.
So
now, do you feel like, and this is a question we get asked because I think the number one thing when we're like, hey, we want to do a podcast that focuses on Houston and like Houston music, they're like, is there enough of it and why and da da da? Do you feel like the outside has that same view of Houston as say you or we do?
No, because they're busy on their own. Like if we go to Atlanta, I'm pretty sure that they have a different perception of what they're listening to than what we're listening to out from their city. You know what I mean? Or you go to New York. Heck, New York has its own pride. Like we'll go out there and you'll be introduced to a whole slew of artists you never heard of. Mm-hmm. And that's just hanging in one borough out there. You know what I mean? No, their perception of what Houston could be or what it is, their perception now is, we are the home of screwed up music, but there's so much more. You know what I mean? Don't get it twisted. Screwed up music is the foundation in which we were able to build on top of and be able to get outside of the 610 loop or even outside the Beltway with. But just like a pot of gumbo, there's so much more in there. You know what I mean? So that's that Louisiana talk.
I see. So, tell us, just for the audience, because we're coming up on the close of the hour, like, where can people find all things Houston Trend?
You'd be able to go to our social media, Houston Trend, our website, HoustonTrendMag.com, Facebook, Houston Trend. If you were to try to get an experience out of it, the places I would tell you to go, of course, visit Screwed Up Records and Tapes. That's a part of it. You can visit 5115. Go visit Turkey Lake Hut. These are the experiences that you will get as a Houston Trend. That's mine. So you'll get a lot of light skin stuff, but or even
real light skin.
French Fry House, man.
There's so much.
Even my photography page.
Yeah, there's so much that's out there.
Yes, so I'm working on right now creating a week of an actual experience of what it means to be Houston Trend or what Houston Trend means. So I'm trying to piece all that together, working with a few venues, just trying to make sure it's right. I've messed around and allowed myself to watch the Playboy documentaries and how Hugh was able to take the idea, turn it into a magazine, then turn it into an actual experience. I'm somewhere in the middle of there trying to take the Houston Trend experience and give it out so folks can actually understand what it means and what I'm trying to do. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay.
So that's what I'm working on.
Well, look, man, we look forward to seeing anything that Houston Trend is doing. Like I said, a number of artists that we've had on the show have been. I mean, we had Doe Beasy on the other day, and I said we're big fans of the work we're doing. We love the fact that you're highlighting Houston, and just like a really, I don't want to use the word professional, just like a really clean. I don't know how to describe it.
It's aesthetically pleasing.
There we go.
I appreciate that, man. Shout out to my boy Corey Terry, who has been there with me since the incarnation of us going print and inspiring me, or pushing me rather, to continue to make it look better. Even my girl Nikki, who has been with me since the incarnation of us going print. Like, if something wasn't working, they would be like, nah, E, it ain't working. And even though I'd be stubborn because I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit, you know, because even, I mean, the full designs in there is what's coming from me. I designed everything you see in that magazine. And if it didn't work, they would jump fly and tell me, hey, E, this is not working. We got to do something, you know, but down to the last, the DJ Mr. Rogers, the Beat King, Q Guyton, and Doe Beasy's. Those have been where I haven't had any distractions in designing them, and just been able to put them together without any negative feedback from my crew. Like, oh man, what you're doing looks amazing. And I mean, not even, I don't want to say it like that, but you know, they fewer less words, they would kind of say that.
And I'm glad you bring up people like Corey Terry, because like we've had him on the show because we were big fans of Context.
And listen, brother,
Context
what he's doing with Context and the stuff he's been doing, I want people to check out Context. I want people to knock down his door to be on Context. I want people to understand what he is literally trying to do with Context. He is giving you this dope content for you to be able to have with whatever song you got, or if it's something unique that you did with Corey. He's literally trying to help create another avenue out here for artists. And it's not just necessarily Houston artists, because he's even gone out to LA and done it. He's gone out to Brooklyn and done it. So, you know, if you're not in tune with what he's doing, I suggest getting in tune with it ASAP, because sooner or later, these guys that are tangible to be able to do this kind of stuff with will not be.
Yeah.
And he's definitely one of those guys that I feel like if you don't knock on his door now and you wait a year, 2, 3, don't think about 4 or 5, because at that point in time, you got to go talk to his lawyer.
Yeah. No, that's really why we had him on. That's why we'd like to have people like you on, because there are a number of artists, the way you describe it, in Houston, where we're talking about artists and business people and things like that, where right now they are tangible. Like right now, you can get at them. And it's actually kind of surprising how easy, I said, you can get at a lot of people in Houston right now. I said, but eventually things are going to blow up, and it's not going to be that easy no more.
You know, it's not going to be so easy to get on My Humble Opinion. It's not going to be so easy to get on Core 94. It's not going to be, I mean, we learned that lesson with 97.9. You cannot just bring your record up there and get it played. No. And if you have to repeat that lesson, then you're bound to learn it all over again. So utilize the avenues that are available to you, even if sometimes you got to beat on their door. And that having to knock down somebody's door to help them, to get them to help you, is what you should be doing. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I mean, that's the biggest gem that I think folks can take away from this is utilize what's available right now, because 3 or 4 years down the road is not.
Oh yeah.
Now I also feel like, and this is just my own personal, I feel like the obvious question that people want to be like, hey, you're involved in the radio, you've got these media avenues, and they be like, hey, what do I need to do to get on? But I'm not asking that. What is some
just do it.
But yeah, I know, because I feel like that's an easy thing. But what I am going to ask, and I feel like it's a lot more important to people watching, is what are some of the things that they shouldn't do when it comes to like trying to get on?
Being lazy, not saying what you're trying to, not being able to verbalize what you're trying to do. You'll come across a lot of people who don't necessarily know how to sell themselves or sell their product or whatever it is they're doing. They'll just say, I'm doing me. You like it, you like it. If you don't, and sometimes that works if what it is you're selling sells itself. Sometimes, not all the time, it doesn't. You have to put a little bit more oomph behind it. So with that being said, know what you have, know your worth, and know how to be able to speak about it to people that are asking. One of the greatest things that I personally admire about Corey Terry, Q Guyton, even my cousin David Anderson, I can go on with people that know how to tell you exactly what they're trying to do, what it is they need, and where they're going with it. You know what I mean? To be able to do that, you'll be able to go anywhere, everywhere.
Absolutely.
Words of wisdom from a wise man.
Hey man, my beard ain't gray yet.
You do have a luxurious beard too, man. I do like your beard. I was like,
I appreciate that. I had to send you the link that I get my beard oil from. Shout out to Jermaine Patterson over at the Body Shop HTX. He hooked me up with some of this beard oil, and ever since then, I've had this nice little glistening sheen in it, and it's just been working.
Yes, please. I was going to ask you about that off camera, but since we talk about it,
I'm gonna see you the link. I'm gonna see you the link,
because I also like that's
and also it's a black-owned business that made my beard oil.
And it's a black-owned. See, now we doing it real big. That's what's up.
That's another thing I like about. There are so many businesses here in Houston too, where it's they are here. Black owned and ready to be supported.
Ready to be supported.
One of the things, and this is, I know I'm sitting here outside my grandmother's house with some shrimp from another black owned business. But I rode through Third Ward, which is my home neighborhood, and to see where it's turning into, it literally looks like, I compare Third Ward to Harlem. You know what I'm saying? Harlem is like New York's black-owned pride landmark. Third Ward is Houston's black-owned pride landmark. So if we're slowly and surely buying back the land over in Third Ward, and you can ride down Scott, you can ride down OST, you can ride down Alameda, and see these beautiful businesses that these beautiful black people have started. So go spend some money in Third Ward.
Absolutely.
Go spend some money at Third Ward. You heard it from Elliot Guidry, ladies and gentlemen. We want to thank you once again for coming on In My Humble Opinion podcast. I've been one of your hosts, Avery, like a very nice guy, also known as Avery Zadius. And we are here with the co-host, my brother, Just Devon. Boom! Just Devon, ladies and gentlemen. And we have been humbly with In My Humble Opinion with Elliot Guidry. It's been wonderful, man.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me on, my man.
All right, man. Until next time, man. In My Humble Opinion.
Hey, man. Next time I'll be in the studio, so we'll do this right. I won't be standing outside looking at trees and whatnot.
Absolutely, man.
You know, I want to do this a little bit safer.
You know what? We'll have to do one with you and Shantae, because we definitely want to have her on too.
Yes.
Absolutely, man. You guys should get me and Corey on there one day, and that'll just be a straight shenanigans.
We've had Corey on. There should be a to be told and humble opinion meetup. We can do that.
There we go.
Oh man, I'm down for it.
To be humble.
I like that. To be humble.
But and just another thing for the people that are watching, you can see how big Houston is because this nigga was driving in like 60% of the podcast. And if you know Houston, you know where he's at. I'm looking. I was like, yeah, I know where you at.
Yep. Oh no! But how the podcast started, I was leaving Harlem Clark.
Yeah.
Driving through Third Ward. Now I'm over here on the east side. So
it was classic too. Once you got on, it was like screw records straight back at you. I was like,
if you see that that water tower back there, you know what side of town I'm on.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we know where you at.
That's what we was looking at. I was like, yeah. He was driving for a while.
For a good little minute.
You know where he's at.
Oh yeah.
Once again, in my humble opinion,
I appreciate it.
The opinions aren't humbled. The words aren't jumbled. Thank you guys, and good nights. Bang.